Alright, Tigers, here we go. Notice that the Quizlet has been posted, and I'll post the reading here, upcoming, going forward. Upcoming schedule again. Finish foreign policy. The Quizlet's short, by the way, so you guys will be able to get through this. I'm going to make this just the War on Terror, okay? So we'll do sort of both of those today, and then we'll sort of do some other foreign policy there at that point. Okay? So as we move to this idea of foreign policy, the statement or belief that the president pushes is this idea of peace is earned through strength. So you're going to see, compared to the Clinton administration, a massive increase in our military budget, pushing the idea that a strong military will stop people from wanting to attack us. We're also going to launch what's known as a global war on terror, meaning, like Reagan said earlier, when terrorists are everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. We're going to try and find an area, or find you, if you've done bad things. To align and make it seem plausible, the Bush Doctrine was authored by Vice President Cheney and one of his top advisors, Paul Wolfowitz, basically stating that actions that will protect the security and democracy of Americans are justified. This is as forward of a foreign policy as we've ever had, basically justifying and allowing the fact that we can go in and get foreign nationals and take them out of their country if we think that they're really bad guys. We'll get to China later. We'll get to the acts of evil later. Okay, so after the attacks of September 11th, the belief was that bin Laden was hiding in Afghanistan. So we launched Enduring Freedom less than a month after September 11th. The most important thing that we gained early on in that battle, guys, was an airfield, so that you guys could see how mountainous the terrain is right here. We needed somewhere to land in Kabul, at Kabul International Airport, and then move around from that point on. So the two main goals of Enduring Freedom were to destroy the Al-Qaeda terrorist camps, and then to capture other Al-Qaeda leaders, including bin Laden. So, there we go. Later on in November was one of the biggest battles of the war in Afghanistan, the Battle of Tora Bora. We were moving the government of the Taliban out of Kabul and driving them to the southwest, this area down here by the Helmand province, okay, which we'll see later. New president installed, his name is Karzai. In 2006, we see more things going on. We're going to talk more about Afghanistan under Obama and Trump. Okay, so here you can see, specifically in all of these areas, these are all U.S. air bases. It's crazy, right? In response, oil fields, right? Okay, and what you start seeing is, here are the danger areas of Afghanistan. This southern area, there's that Helmand province that we talked about, where the enemy are located at that time. So President Bush refers to Iran, Iraq, North Korea, Libya, Syria, and Cuba as an axis of evil. We'll watch that speech during office hours tomorrow. So what you see is we capture Saddam near Tikrit, which is in the northern section, throughout. Now, one of the issues that I want to come back to, though, before we get into Iraq, is how did we justify going into Iraq? Realize that early on, we were firmly supported by the entire nation into going to Afghanistan because that's where bin Laden was, and we were looking for bin Laden. The argument to go into Iraq was not as strong. Okay, so the argument hinged on this idea of UN Resolution 1441, that there would be no tolerance or defiance of any international law, specifically regarding weapons of mass destruction. So the reason for war that we said initially was that Iraq had WMD and that there were ties to 9/11. After looking at this in great detail, the 9/11 Commission and most of the world realized that neither of these two things were true. later on the statement will be made, well, to free a people. Well, we're not exactly freeing all people that are being put down by brutal dictators. So to make the case for war, the CIA was receiving some information that Iraq was buying uranium from Niger. Okay, so the CIA sent in operatives, okay, Valerie Plame, to go and try and figure out if this were the case. After Valerie Plame reported back to her superiors that there were no yellow cake uranium sales from Niger going to Iraq, a man by the name of Scooter Libby, one of Vice President Cheney's aides, went public and outed her, actually used her name. And you guys have to understand, you're not supposed to use agents' names in public. So she had to escape from Niger, was helicoptered to safety, and basically has not been able to work for the CIA because of this. Scooter Libby was then sent to prison for that. We never found any real connection there. The chief UN weapons coordinator, or inspector, Hans Blix, was never aware of any indications that can be found. And what you see here, guys, is you see from 98 on, this is the rise of terrorism around the globe. And look at all these little things. It's just crazy, right? And you see all the things that go on. So, with that issue with information going into Iraq, we go into 2003. General Tommy Franks goes in. He's the main U.S. general leading the operation. Baghdad falls about 20 days later. Military operations battle over May 1. Uday and Qusay, Saddam's kids, were killed. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Iraq became a democracy. So, militarily, it was a great success. We came in quickly. Maliki's the leader there. You can see here's the Saddam statue that we tore down. There's Uday and there's Qusay. There's Saddam being captured in his spider cave. But this was the controversial issue right here because unlike the previous Persian Gulf War, where we were there for approximately 40 days and then we left, President Bush landed on top of this aircraft carrier here, and in a flake suit, and came out, and behind him the signs "Mission Accomplished." So a majority of Americans felt like the battle and everything in Iraq was over, and that's just not going to be the case. One of the issues that occurred throughout are these failures here, and I really want everybody to highlight this issue right here. There was this push by the administration to get lighter and faster, to not rely on our heavy battle tanks as much, but to be quicker. Well, to be quicker, you have to take the armor off of vehicles, and it left them unprotected. So, less numbers of troops, light, not with as much heavy support, and using the Air Force. It's sort of like what we tried to do in Vietnam a little bit here, using supporting airstrikes and less of a ground surface force. Well, this is going to leave us vulnerable to counterattack, and especially what you'll hear of is an IED, an improvised explosive device that were sort of built in the road. So we were not as strong as we were before. If you remember back in the Vietnam, we talked about the tiger and the elephant. This is us sort of not being an elephant. It's sort of being a little bit weaker here. There. 2. We didn't go in with enough forces to secure the borders and the cities. So when Iraq falls, we can't make sure that no bad guys, like foreign terrorists, come in to upset the apple cart. Okay? Along with that, we got rid of anybody that was related to Saddam. Now, that was a lot of his security force, that was a lot of his military. It turns out it probably would have been good to have them on our side. Okay? And lastly was Abu Ghraib. It was a prison scandal where U.S. soldiers embarrassed and made Iraqi detainees perform terrible acts of cruelty and just depravity. And these images and videos got out, and it did not make us look like liberators. It made us look like, really bad people, trying to take control of a country again. So just to show you some numbers here, to sort of point out how things were different here. Look at the number of the force here in 91, the Persian Gulf. This is to free Kuwait. look at, the numbers going in. Like, it's a third of the force. We have a lot more dead. We only had 17 supporting nations, and this number is not exactly true because there were a number of nations that came in and they pledged their support to us. They didn't really give us anything. But, these are two Middle Eastern nations helping to free Kuwait. You can see that here. You can see the costs are going to be in the total in the trillions, especially when you count healthcare into it. So, one of those things that you really have to look and see, why are we getting involved in this type of foreign conflict with everything that's going on? Okay, guys, you have a great Thursday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Tigers.